Thank you everyone so much for joining. Before getting started, I just want to note that if you have questions during this webinar, you can type them into the questions box on your screen and we'll answer them at the end. So with that being said, Shawn, I'll just turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Shane. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Much appreciated. Going to do a quick 20-minute webinar here, and we're going to talk about required training and documentation for bobtail drivers. And what's going to be nice is we're going to kind of have the insurance spin on things today. And we really appreciate both Bob Butkus and Andrew Johnson for joining us today from Federated. And Bob, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Shawn. Like Shawn said, my name is Bob Butkus. I've been with Federated for 17 years. I'm the Senior District Marketing Manager in Connecticut, part of New York, and Rhode Island. And I work with a team of 11 sales reps, day in, day out, helping sign up new clients and service the existing book. Andrew?
Yep. So Andrew Johnson, Senior Risk Consultant with Federated. I've been with Federated coming up on 10 years, and my territory is Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts, handling the safety and risk management for Federated up this way.
Oh, great. Well, thank you both again for joining. And as we go through this today, again, sort of tying this back to the insurance side, and, I think it's great that we can get the insight from you guys. So maybe from a Federated insurance standpoint, can you walk us through, what it requires of its customers when it comes to bobtail drivers and driver safety?
Yeah, sure. So, where I'll start with this is the number one thing that I've seen in my time with Federated is that auto liability is the number one exposure that our customers, clients, and prospects have out there with bobtails. Driving those big, heavy trucks each day down the road poses a lot of risk. It can cause really bad things to happen when something goes wrong. And it not only affects the auto premium, but if and when we do have, God forbid, a rollover or something like that, or a bad accident, it can also affect workers' comp and umbrella. So when we do have claims, we see that companies pay a lot more for the premium. So there's a high motivation to stay safe, right? Just inherently from a dollar and cent standpoint. The number one thing we want to do is to make sure every company has a written driving policy that is regularly communicated to each and every driver at the business. So even if it's primarily bobtail drivers, but also non-CDL related drivers. What we ask for in our driving standards are that, number one, we do have standards and perimeters set as to who can drive and who cannot drive. And if something happens, what's the consequence of that? We would also ask, and I know DOT regulations enforce this and encourage this as well, is no texting and driving or no talking on the phone. And as well, we add in a vehicle usage policy. Now with bobtail drivers, their commercial vehicles, they're not going to be using them personally, but we also don't want service techs or anyone else that may have personal access to the vehicles to be using them personally. What I think is good and smart is, there's speed limits posted on the side of a highway for a reason. And we want to communicate these rules and regulations to our drivers so that they know the rules of the game. And for Federated, it's if you're 25 or older and you have 3 or more violations, you're considered unqualified to drive. Now, when you hit the number 3, we would look at a probationary status. And if they are, quote, deemed minor infractions like a seatbelt, we would consider that person probationary. However, if at any point anyone has a major violation, a DUI, leaving the scene of an accident, driving with a suspended license, or passing a school bus, which I've had a couple of those happen where a driver is coming too fast around a corner and couldn't stop the heavy truck on time, we would consider those infractions and that driver would be unable to drive. So at that point, they lose their livelihood, you lose profit, and we have a big headache for everyone. A couple things that we would encourage, again, an annual meeting to discuss this And prior to hire, we make it available to call in the motor vehicle record of a potential hire to know what it looks like so that we can nip it in the bud or avoid it altogether if possible. And that's kind of really where we start in terms of a written policy that's annually communicated to each and every employee. And as part of this webinar, Shawn, I know you're going to be able to get that sample driving policy out to everybody. So if number one, you don't have it, please put it in force. And number two, if you haven't communicated it within the last 12 months, now is a good time to get everyone together and to communicate this policy, have them sign off on it to make sure they understand the details of it.
That's
Andrew, great. Is there? Yep, I just didn't know if Andrew wanted to add anything to that.
No, Bob, I think you hit it all pretty good, especially the part of, I visited with a lot of business owners that say they have a driving policy in place, but the last time they communicated it to their employees, cell phones weren't as, relevant as they are now, or like, everyone having a cell phone. So certainly bringing it up, once, twice a year, even just updating your policy, especially from a distracted driving standpoint as well.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the importance of policies and procedures across the board are it's immeasurable. So that's great, Bob. Now, and thanks, Andrew. Now, does Federated, in terms of, I guess offering tools to their customer base, are there anything like that you guys can provide your customers to help with driver safety?
Yes. Step one is getting the written policy in place. But once we do that and we communicate that, Federated we asked ourselves, how do we know what they're doing, the drivers are doing each and every day? So Federated provides a telematics program to each and every one of our clients. And what that does is it scores every driver for every trip every day. And it measures 5 major categories. Number 1, speed. Number 2, fast acceleration. Number 3, hard braking. Number 4, hard cornering. And 5 is phone use. And I personally used this technology. Federated rolled it out and made it available for all the employees. And, I found out that my wife was right about me not being the best driver in the world. My first 2-week rolling score was a 77. And I wasn't too happy with that. And it opened my eyes to driving safer and driving better and being better prepared to make the drives and so on and so forth. What I was doing is hard braking and speeding. Those are the 2 areas that I was losing points on. So it motivated me to become a better driver and to get my score above 90. And I've maintained that since, and now I'm a better risk on the road due to that. So I've personally seen it. And if possible, I'd love to just show everyone a quick video on that, if that would be possible.
Absolutely. Jane, yeah, there we go.
Everyone can see this now?
Yeah, I think we can see it.
All right.
Company drivers are among the most valuable members of your team. Yet the risks and temptations they face on the road today are unlike any in history. Encouraging safe driving behaviors is essential, first and foremost, because a crash could result in devastating injuries or death. But also because company drivers carry your business's reputation around with them on the road. You may be liable for their actions, both in the court of public opinion and in a real courtroom. No matter how good your drivers are, even the best can get better. Federated Drive Safe is designed to improve your employees' driving habits through motivation, knowledge, awareness, coaching, and safety reminders, giving you valuable insights into the performance of your company drivers. Businesses have seen results quickly. Within 30 days of using this technology, the top 30% of drivers show 30% reduction in speeding, 39% reduction in phone distraction, 51% reduction in hard braking, and it can all add up to a 25% reduction in accidents. Through a combination of a mobile app, telematics tags or sensors, and an online portal, Federated Drive Safe measures specific driver behaviors and engages employees through scoring, immediate feedback, and competition leaderboards. Make sure your drivers are ready for each day with the Federated Drive Safe checklist. While operating a company vehicle, the app measures and scores 5 driving behaviors: hard braking, harsh acceleration, hard cornering, speeding, and phone use. Following each trip on a company-owned vehicle, the Federated Drive Safe app analyzes and gives your employee an overall score based on those behaviors. Your employees can view their rolling 2-week score, current ranking compared to other company drivers on their team, and much more. Privacy is important, which is why Federated Drive Safe leverages the combination of an app and tag. While the app is installed on the employee's work or personal smartphone, it must recognize and connect with a tag in a company vehicle before it will begin measuring driving behavior. Since tags are not installed in employee-owned vehicles, employees can rest assured that trips in their personal vehicle are not being measured or analyzed. The collected data for all company drivers is stored in an easy-to-use and intuitive online portal, allowing fleet administrators the ability to view driver scores and trends. The online portal allows you to view trip history and last vehicle location, manage teams of drivers and vehicles, react to trends in individual driving, analyze data to create and facilitate team competitions, and much more. Each week, you will get an email indicating scoring trends, providing actionable insights on your company's drivers. Federated's Drive Safe is designed to improve your employees' driving habits through motivation, knowledge, and awareness. Federated Drive Safe is available exclusively to eligible Federated insurance clients as a value-added risk management service.
So I hope that helped explain the telematics program that we have to offer. If there's any questions, please type those in and we'll answer them later on. Andrew, do you have any comments to add on that?
No, I think you did a great job of explaining it, especially some of your own personal, personal experience from it. I have been working with, clients that have had this program. I actually met with one yesterday that they have quite a bit of competition amongst their drivers to just have, who's got the highest score in the company. I have a 95 or above. So it really kind of improves the driver behavior and then also adds in some kind of, fun, back and forth with the company drivers as well.
Nice. I like that. That's a great feature. And thank you for sharing that video for everybody. And in terms of just switching gears a little bit, as far as the audit process and Federated's involvement there, and what does that audit process look like in tying it into driver safety as well?
So every year, Federated does an audit on our clients. There's the exposure audit, which is gallons, payroll, sales. But we're also looking at motor vehicle records on an annual basis to see how we're doing in terms of violations. And one of the audits that we perform for our propane clients is to look at their gas check forms and to make sure that they're staying compliant in terms of an overall gas check compliance risk management safety form, and that we're moving toward every customer having one of those to make sure that the procedures are done correctly, the installs are correct. Where that ties into drivers is, I know it's a driver's job to go deliver and to drive the bobtail, but when they're there, if they're visually inspecting or they're being coached on looking for things that look out of place, it's helpful in terms of when audit time comes that our client is in compliance with these gas check forms, and that's gone a long way to help.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that and kind of, I think the way P3 can sort of tie into that is, going through that video and showing how technology, how important it can be and how impactful it can be on the P3 front when it comes to being, a mobile safety documentation tool for clients, anything from a safety inspection, gas check to interruption of service that bobtail drivers could be doing, runouts, etc., but also specific to bobtail driver documentation. And one of those things would be the monthly meter creep test and discharge system inspection that's required by the DOT. Jane, could I you mind if I share my screen here? And I'll walk folks through that process. Can you guys see this now?
Yeah.
Great. Jane, we can see this here?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so very simple process from a P3 mobile entry standpoint again. And what we've seen here with a lot of our clients is error rates upwards of 100% on these forms. And keep in mind, if DOT comes into audit, this is the stuff they're going to look for. They're going to look for errors, omissions, things like that, and we're going to eliminate those things from happening. We've actually seen fines upward of $15,000 when it comes to this type of stuff. So you better be sure it's filled out correctly. And we've built the technologies into P3 to help create that do it right the first time mentality in an ongoing teaching tool. So as I go through this, you'll see there's a progress bar on my right, and built in is our error recognition technology as well as our mobile professor. So if folks have questions about what they're doing, they can click on the line item and it'll open up a tutorial about the intent of each line item. Great learning tool. Again, I think one of the bigger errors here is that folks don't exactly know what they're filling out or how to fill it out. A lot of times we'd see people fill out both of these or check both of these off. We have the technology built in to only do one. From a checkbox standpoint, we'll open up additional fields that are required. And at the same time, if you skip something that you shouldn't, we'll let you know in real time. We'll highlight where that error is. You go back and you fill that out properly. So again, just creating that behavior of doing it right the first time. Now, I'm going to quickly go through this because I know we're getting close to the 20-minute mark, and I'm just going to make sure folks see, again, how simple of a process the entry is and how this can ultimately help you reduce your error rate on these forms from whatever it is today to ultimately 0% is what we've helped our clients get to. Once it's completed, you're going to have the ability to review your final document. It would be branded with your company logo. Get my signature from the inspector, save it, and we're in great shape there. So, and then ultimately on the back end, from a reporting standpoint, just to show you folks as well, we've got the ability to track that these are done on an ongoing basis, done every month. And if it's expired, we'll highlight that for you in red and give you the ability to make sure that you get that completed, get it scheduled, get it done. Once you get it done, every new inspection will overwrite the old. Because as DOT, most states, DOT requires the most recent version to be on file, and that's all. So I know that's kind of getting into the monthly meter creep, the bobtail inspection process. And I think just tying it back to Federated, Bob, we talked about the audit process. Are you guys doing anything on site to audit your clients as well?
Yeah, I would like to have Andrew talk about this. The short answer is yes. We are doing visual and on-site inspections for new business, and then periodically with an insured. Andrew, you want to talk about how that day unfolds when you're out on the bobtail?
Yeah, absolutely. So just in short, I mean, I go out and visit with new clients as well as current clients for a routine propane audit. And what I do is I take a look, I do a file review to make sure that, all the leak checks are completed. And then also go out and take a look at some of the tanks in the field to ensure that they're within compliance in terms of distance requirements, just to kind of do a checks and balances of, the bobtail drivers as well as the technicians' work. And then, address any recommendations that may come from that, whether it being an incomplete form or, a tank being too close to a window or an AC unit or what have you.
Awesome. And I think that's kind of what you see here now that I'm showing is this site condition reporting that's available in P3 ties directly in with what you guys do from an audit standpoint. So, obviously folks have drivers out there, they're out there, and you want them, when they see something, you want them to say something or report it back to the office and have that process be a seamless one. And we help provide that as a part of the P3 database. And one way is through our site condition reporting. So I'm going to plug in some information here and just kind of ultimately get to that page to show you what this looks like. So here we're giving the drivers the ability to send photos in along with narrowing down the detail of exactly what they're seeing. So they can add an image, and I'll just kind of show one example that I had sort of pulled out, put one of one that's too close to a generator, because as we know, these things will happen, whether it's a homeowner or HVAC provider. Okay, and you can describe the photo. You can then again narrow down to the detail of what's being reported back to the office. This would be a distance requirement issue, and it would be too close to a source of ignition. If there's other items that this is affecting, you can ultimately document that on the regulator, in which I guess in this instance it would kind of be both. And then we've got the piping, facilities, vehicle, different ways to ultimately track this stuff and send it back to the office so that they can review it. Very simple. And then once they do, the way that we'll provide that platform for you, because that's the most difficult part, is phone calls coming in. Does it get lost? Is there paperwork? Well, we eliminate that. You know, we'll bring it right into your dashboard for review and give you the ability to actually review that photo and understand. This is another one I had loaded, but this one being 6 feet from the building structure, 10 feet away. We know that we need to move that, so we can plug that into a priority follow-up. As I do that, we submit it, and then in our dashboard, our working dashboard, we will ultimately have the ability to see our priority follow-ups, go in, and I'm sorry, I keep moving my thing. We can go in, we can see that it's a driver reported issue, tank must be moved away from structure. So again, it's just providing that seamless transition between from the field into the office and making sure we get this scheduled to get it done. And then from a Federated standpoint, these guys are taking care of all that stuff proactively, and they don't have to worry about you guys finding anything come audit time. So I think that really ties in well with what you guys have to offer and kind of the services you guys provide. So with that, I know again, we're a little bit running late. Maybe what we could do is open the floor up to any questions from anybody. Jane?
Yes, so the first question is, you mentioned telematic. How does Federated feel about the use of dash cams?
Yeah, Bob,
Andrew?
I can take that one. Yep. So dash cameras, Federated has a partnership with Lytx, LYTX. They offer both front-facing and driver-facing dash cams. And certainly from a risk management and safety standpoint, having that in addition to the telematics is great. We've had a lot of claims that have been open and shut when a driver on the road says, you know, hey, your big truck sideswiped me. Then they go to the video footage and see that person's bumper was already hanging off, or they already had, you know, that sideswipe mark on their back door or whatever the case may be, instead of, you know, years prior, if someone doesn't have that camera footage, then maybe it's just a small settlement in court. So certainly adding any of that in addition to telematics is great, and just really surrounding your driving exposure.
Thanks,
Great.
Andrew.
So it looks like that's all the questions we got. Yeah, that's it so far.
Okay. Well, great. Well, if anybody does have additional questions and wants to catch up, you know, offline from the webinar, we're extremely accessible. You can visit p3propane.com. Bob and Andrew, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Bob, I guess I'll kind of give you the floor here to wrap up with us, if that works for you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having us, Shawn. We really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone for being a part of this. I'll end as I started. You know, auto is the #1 liability out there. So please do everything you can to implement a good driving policy, use telematics, and stay safe. I know it's not always easy, but it is the best practice. Your reputation is on the line, lives are on the line. And if we can be proactive with risk management and compliance, keep families safe, keep your drivers safe, and the general public, and maintain that pristine reputation in the community, it's a win for everybody. So thank you for being part of this today, and please reach out to me if there's any way we can help you stay safe on the roads.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.